Master Builder Solutions from BASF. We create chemistry.
BASF MasterFlow grouting solutions, part of the Master Builder Solutions brand, provide the critical link between equipment and structural components and the foundations beneath them. Our grouts effectively transfer static and dynamic loads from equipment and building components to the foundation, enhancing equipment performance, service life, and the safety of structures, from commercial buildings to roller coasters and bridges. Proper installation is essential to the smooth functioning of grout and ultimately the safety and efficiency of equipment and building components. First, we will demonstrate the proper preparation of equipment base plates and concrete foundations prior to grouting. As always, be sure to wear the proper personal protective equipment. For the grout to perform correctly, it must be placed under a properly cleaned base plate. If adhesion to the base plate is required, as with epoxy grouts, you will need to abrade the underside of the base plate to remove any rust, coatings, wax, grease, or scale. A needle gun will generally suffice, but sandblasting may be necessary for higher bond strength. Primer should be used if there will be a long delay between the cleaning of the base plate and the actual grouting of the equipment. This will prevent rusting of the clean steel. We recommend BASF Master Mako ADH 1090RS liquid bonding adhesive. If the primer has been on the surface for more than 1 month, abrade and solvent wipe it so that no residue remains. This will enable fresh epoxy grout to bond to the primer. The grout should come up at least 3/4 inch or 19 millimeters onto the equipment. Protect and mask the area above the grout line. Now we will review the preparation of the foundation surface. Cure the foundation until the design strength of the concrete is achieved. If using epoxy grout, ensure that the foundation is dry. For proper bonding, the surface being grouted must be clean, strong, and roughened to a concrete surface profile of a CSP value 5 to 10. The use of a light chipping gun, needle gun, or even a surface retarder applied to the freshly poured foundation are acceptable methods of surface preparation. The use of a bushing hammer is not recommended, as this can lead to microfractures in the concrete foundation and affect the integrity of the installation. If the grout is being brought to the edge of the concrete foundation, chamfer the edges of the concrete at a 45-degree angle to about a 2-inch, 51-millimeter width. This will help distribute stresses at the edge over a wider surface area. If anchor bolt sleeves are to be grouted, sleeves, holes, and similar items should be cleaned of debris, dirt, and water with oil-free compressed air or vacuum. If anchor bolt sleeves are not being grouted, seal the area with felt, foam rubber, or other means to prevent the grout from entering. Cover all shims and leveling screws with putty, clay, or wax to keep the grout from adhering. Shims or jack pockets may be formed with wood and filled with damp sand. Remove shims or jack screws after the grout cures. Protect the foundation from both direct sunlight and rain for at least 24 hours prior to grouting. Next, we will demonstrate the proper preparation of forms for grouting industrial equipment. Once the equipment and foundation have been properly prepared and the equipment has been aligned according to the manufacturer's specifications, we are ready to create the forms which will contain the freshly poured grout until it achieves its final set. Forms must be liquid tight to prevent seepage of fresh grout. Forms placed against the vertical face of the foundation should be sealed with putty, foam, or caulk, placed below the top of the concrete prior to pressing the forms into place and fastening them by mechanical means. Forms constructed on the horizontal surface of the foundation should be sealed by applying caulk on the bottom side of the form and then mechanically fastening the form in place. BASF recommends Master Seal NP1 for this application. Take special care to seal all the corners and seams of the forms. Seal off any areas that will not be grouted. A little extra time in creating liquid-tight forms will save hours in dealing with leaks. A chamfered grout edge can be created in the formwork. Alternately, grout edges can be chamfered after the grout sets. The surfaces of the forms which will contact the grout should be treated with extra heavy coats of paste wax. This will help with the ease of removal of the forms after the grout is cured. Take care to keep the wax off the concrete and steel surfaces to be grouted. The top of the form should extend at least 3/4 inch, 19 millimeters, above the highest grout elevation beneath the rail or base plate. This will allow the grout to completely fill the void under the base plate while preventing it from spilling over the form during placement. On the exit side, opposite the placing side, form should extend 2 to 4 inches, 51 to 102 millimeters away from the base plate to allow air to exit and to allow for the use of placing aids if necessary. On the pouring side, forms are typically 2 to 6 inches, 51 to 152 millimeters from the edge of the supporting area, and the head box is sloped upward at 45 degrees so that grout can be placed with minimal turbulence and air entrapment. Moderate to large size equipment and difficult or narrow placement applications should utilize an extended head box to create additional pressure and enhanced placement. Under large equipment base plates, expansion joints will reduce the possibility of cracking. Expansion joints made of an oil and chemical resistant material such as a closed cell foam will reduce the possibility of cracking. In this segment, we will demonstrate the proper mixing of epoxy grout. The surfaces have been prepared, the forms have been placed, and now we are ready to mix the grout. MasterFlow 648 high-strength epoxy grout is a great choice because of its high level of performance, chemical resistance, and flowability. The material must be kept completely dry and preconditioned to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 degrees Celsius, for 24 hours before using. Pour the Part B hardener into a pail of the Part A grout resin. We recommend that you mix the resin with a spatula until it is a uniform amber color, about 1.5 to 2 minutes. If you choose to use a low-speed drill and paddle, be careful not to whip air in the mix. When complete, you should be able to clearly see the bottom of the pail. Air entrapment will reduce the compressive strength of epoxy grouts. Adjust your mortar mixer speed to about half throttle, or approximately 40 to 60 RPM, and disengage the blades. Immediately pour the mixture into a horizontal shaft mortar mixer. Leave the can upside down on the center of the hopper to allow all the resin to completely drain out of the can. Add 3 bags of grout aggregate into the mixer, 1 bag at a time. Then engage the blades and add the 4th bag. Mix only until the aggregate is completely wetted out to avoid air entrapment. This usually takes about a minute to 1 minute and 15 seconds. The first batch may be slightly less fluid than later batches because some resin is retained on the walls of the mixer. Withhold half a bag to 1 bag of aggregate from the first batch of a full unit to compensate for the lost resin. Note: never add the aggregate to the mixer before the pre-mixed liquids have been poured in. In this segment, we will demonstrate proper grout placement. Pour freshly mixed grout into a wheelbarrow or buckets for transporting to the pour site. Remove it from the wheelbarrow within 15 minutes. Where grout cannot be adequately worked to fill the cavity, a head box will assist the flow. Use a sturdy wooden box or sheet metal funnel about 1 to 2 feet, 0.3 to 0.6 meters high, to create a pressure head at the pouring side. Make sure the head box always has enough material in it to maintain pressure and to avoid air pockets beneath the equipment. When grouting from the perimeter of a machine base plate, placement should be across the shortest dimension, starting at one end and continuing there until the grout rises above the bottom of the base plate on the opposite side. The pouring or pumping point is then moved slowly along the slanted head form on the pouring side at the same rate at which the grout continues to fill the opposite side. This will prevent entrapment of air. MasterFlow 648 grout will flow, but can be aided by the use of steel banding straps placed below the base plate prior to grouting. The straps extend from the placing side across the width of the base plate and out the other side. Long, slow back and forth strokes will aid the grout in filling the area without entrapment of air. Do not vibrate the grout, as it will cause the aggregate to separate out of the mix. Check frequently for leaks. Leaks do not self-seal, and if not stopped, they will cause voids. After the pour is complete, remove uncured epoxy from the mixer, wheelbarrow, and tools. MasterFlow epoxy grouts can be cleaned out with only soap and water or a citrus degreaser. Cured material must be removed mechanically. Properly dispose of all the waste material. After the grout material is set, remove the forms. If necessary, clean the chamfered edge with an angle grinder or hand tool. The equipment is now ready for use. This concludes our instructional video on the proper preparation, mixing, and placement of MasterFlow epoxy grouts. For further assistance, please contact our technical service department at 1-800-243-6739 or visit our website www.master-builders-solutions.basf.us.
Master Builder Solutions from BASF. We create chemistry.